Should work, hopefully. If not,
Yeah.
we'll just have a great conversation. But I'm sure it works. So basically, they have blockades like on the highways.
Yeah, because right now I'm I'm up north. I'm near Mont-Tremblant, so that's like where originally I'm from. And now, like if you're trying to get onto the highway to get to the city, the SQ are stopping you, checking your license, asking where you're going, why you're going, and if you're just because they're trying to prevent people from the city coming to their cottages too, because there's not many cases up in the regions here.
Yeah.
So I think Montreal now has over 2,000 cases, so I think they're trying to limit that spread into the northern parts of Quebec.
Yay for me.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy when my brother's like, oh yeah, there's like 1,500 cases. I'm like, dude, there's like 2,000 as of yesterday. He's like, oh crap.
Yeah. I don't look at it anymore.
Oh, I know, it's ridiculous.
It's funny because I checked it this week, the numbers, and I hadn't checked them all week. So basically since like last Friday. Yeah. And the last time I checked, there was 139 cases.
That's crazy.
And then I checked at the end of this week, and there was like 1,600, 1,800 cases. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? I'm like, what happened? And then I'm like, okay, I can't, because now it's just going like I saw the curve, and I was like, yeah, I can't. The anxiety started going up, and I'm like, yeah, it's fuck this shit, man.
Oh, that's it. I don't know if there's like secret orgy parties going on. I don't understand why it's spreading so fast in Montreal. It's ridiculous, like how it's by day it's jumping by hundreds. And then my brother's he's all proud. And I was talking just a few weeks ago. He's like, oh, there's no cases in Nova Scotia. He lives out near Truro, Nova Scotia. And by the end of our conversation, there's already 2 reported cases. So I was like, yeah, it's coming. It's just that there's like 30 people out there, so it takes longer,
Honestly, I think there's still a lot of people. And by a lot, I mean they're definitely the minority, but I think there's still some people that just aren't taking this seriously. Like I went out this week to go to the pharmacy. I forget where. Oh no, I just went out to bring something and to go put gas in the car. And I saw kids just around the corner playing together. And I know the kids, and I know they're not from the same household. Oh, no. And I'm like, where are your fucking parents telling you to stay home? Like my kids, we go out for a walk every day when it's nice out. They stay with us, and like I'll let them ride their bike around here, but I'm outside with them, and they don't get near anybody. And then we come back home. Like we're outside for 30, 40, 45 minutes. That's it.
Yeah, it really seems the ones that are ignoring it the most are the ones most susceptible. It's like kids and old people. I think a lot of older people are like, I've lived through so much stuff. I'm not scared of this. I'm like, yeah, but you're literally the ones who could die if you catch this stuff, Like,
yeah. Well, I know I see a lot of those like people close to retirement or at retirement age where they're like, oh, I'm healthy. I don't feel sick. Like they're just like hard-headed. Like they're not gonna let anything distract them from their daily routine of fucking going to Tim Hortons or whatever the case may be.
Picking up your paper Saturday morning. That's it. Like here, even the snowstorms and things like that, there'll be these 80-year-olds walking through the snow to get their paper because that's what they do Saturday mornings. So they're doing that regardless. There'll be zombies walking the streets and they'll be like, no, gotta go get my bingo, gotta do my scratchies. Like it's weird that they, for once, it's a government like thing that you really should listen to because it's just it's crazy how quick it's spreading.
But I think here's the issue I have with not the issue, but I think the issue is that a lot of people that age aren't on social media like we are. Like the spread of fear through social media, like the fear mongering is like there's a lot of that going on right now. Yeah. And because I find that a certain generation is just not on social media like we are, me and you and people of our age, and the younger generation as well, I think that they just don't see how truly serious that is. They're just like, I hear it in the news, I watch it once a day, I watch the news once a day, or I read it in the paper. And for them, they don't, maybe because they don't participate in the fear mongering, I think maybe they have a different perspective on how they see this thing, right?
And I think if you look to it like the past, like H1N1, SARS, all these past things, it's like they were like everyone made a big deal out of it, and then it didn't. For me anyway, it didn't affect my day-to-day life. It didn't change anything for a lot of people. H1N1 was like, put a mask on, you're good to go. Whereas now it's like the province shut down, And I was talking with, someone we both know, Dom Boulanger, and we were saying, like, it's scary to think how quick the government can shut stuff down. If they want to say, like, they can make up anything and say, oh my God, we have to do, like, people were so quick to, not that, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but people were so quick to, like, get home and follow these rules and, like, don't go out, don't do this. I'm like, it's kind of scary to see how quickly they shut down a country or shut down a province,
How easily, they don't even do it by force. They do it by just relaying information through either social media or by television. And they sit there and they say, we are your government. You live in our country. Here are the new restrictions. And at first that's all they said. They didn't say anything about penalties or fines or whatever. Now they're at the point where they're like, yo, motherfucker, if we catch you outside, we're giving you a ticket. If you're a business that runs during these times and you're not supposed to, you're going to have heavy fines. If you're, if you don't practice social distancing, like at the beginning of last week, I went to Walmart and it was a free for all. You could go in and out. There was nobody at the door. My wife went Friday or Thursday and they were already
lined up
within 3-4 days. Yeah. They were letting one person in at a time. One person would leave, one person would go in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's like, because people just don't pay attention to the rules. They're like, I went to Walmart and in Walmart, they have arrows now. So one aisle, you're only supposed to go in one direction. Then the following aisle, you're going the other direction, right? People don't give a fuck. They announce it on the PA every so often to remind people, hey, look down, there's arrows, follow the arrows. It's simple. And it helps. Now, people, it's still a free-for-all. So they were like, okay, now we're going to restrict the amount of people that can come in. And now you're outside waiting 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, it's crazy. Like we were at the vet yesterday. Actually, our dog was sick and all this. We're worried, like, is a vet considered essential services? And then my sister went to pick up groceries while we were there. And for her, it was fine. Even if she had to wait, she waits, goes in. But there's like this old lady pulled up in her car and she's waiting outside. And I'm like, that, if you have no one to help you, she's like an 80-year-old lady standing in the cold, waiting 40 minutes to get in to buy her groceries. I'm like, that's crazy, like.
I think they have restricted, some of the places have restricted time for the elderlies. They're like from 8 to 10, only elderly. So you can come, do your, then after that, it's like whoever wants to come do their groceries. I think, dude, I was thinking about this, like when this whole thing started, like I've been home for 23 days because my kids have been, are you all right? Oh, you froze there for
No, I might have froze, but I see like the quality goes down a bit. It's like I said, I'm in the bush, so the internet isn't the strongest. Bell Canada, kids, it sucks terrible ding dong. So,
hey, I have Bell Canada too, but you're right. I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, when this whole thing started, I've been home for 23 days now because my kids stopped going to school, I think like March 22nd. So I still went to work for the next week. But then by the week after that, I went to work on the Monday and that was it. They shut everything down. So within a week, they went from shutting down the schools to shutting down 1 week, basically not all non-essential businesses.
Oh, yeah.
And at the beginning, like, because I deal with so much bullshit and anxiety, like 98% of my anxiety was like, am I going to get sick? I'm getting sick. I'm going to die. Like all these things would go through my mind. So the majority of my anxiety was the virus itself. Yeah. Now it's like 3 weeks in for me of all this bullshit. And I'm like, at this point, like I have a lot less anxiety because I've learned to, like say like fuck it after a while, like what the fuck, I'm gonna worry about it all day every day until we can go outside and there's no more coronavirus. But now my anxiety, my little bit of anxiety that I have is like, like, is the government gonna have our backs on all of this no matter how long this lasts? Like, you have to start thinking like the government has, and we live in Canada, they've forked out billions of dollars already to help out the people. But dude, if this lasts for 12, 18 months that we're stuck at home and trying to figure out how to bring food in to feed 30 plus million people, holy fuck, like you got to start thinking like, fuck the disease. Like, is the government equipped to deal with all this?
That's it. It's crazy, especially like for small business. You know, the bigger ones, they have ways to get around it. But like my mother owns a small dépanneur, and already where we are, it's hard to get volume, get traffic in. But now when people are even scared to come into the store, it's crazy. So I said, and for them to pay all that out, to pay the EI, to pay these businesses, to keep road work, to keep maintenance up, like it's crazy. And I heard a lot of like conspiracy theories online saying, oh, the government doing. I'm like. I'm not that I'm against. I'm not saying the government's always right. You know, oftentimes they do a lot of sketchy stuff, but it's like it's always geared at making money. So I'm like, I don't see how this is a government ploy because I'm like they're losing so much money. It doesn't make like what do they gain from doing this by shutting down society? You know, like it's crazy. There's no way that this is there might be something dirty in the background, but I mean like. To kill your own province, to shoot yourself in the foot to this point, I'm like, obviously they know that there's a problem with this. But I think like the virus, because a lot of people are saying, oh, if we're young, we're healthy. I think it's not that like if you or I caught it, not that it would kill us, but because it's a lung infection, we'd be stuck with it until we got antibiotics. Like we'd survive, we'd be able to keep doing our day-to-day stuff. But it's like you can't just naturally get rid of it. You need to see a doctor. You need to take up that time. You need to take up those resources. So like if all of us that are healthy need treatment, and then there's people dying, then they're kind of like stuck like Italy is now, where they don't even have enough ventilators for the people that need them now.
I don't know, man. I try not to watch what's going on in Spain and Italy and all those places. Even in the States, like in the States, they waited way too long, too long. Like Trump was like, this thing is, the ego was so big,
the churches will be filled by Easter. The churches will be filled.
They're so afraid to look any type of vulnerable to the rest of the world that Trump was, I think, willing to push it back and just keep his fingers crossed and go like, I really hope I'm wrong. I'm right about this.
Yeah.
But I feel like the society can either go to like, a lot of people are going to start realizing that there's a lot of bullshit they have in their lives that is not necessary anymore. I think you're going to have those people that are going to remove a lot of negative bullshit that they didn't know was negative bullshit. Either it's going to be like, somebody that's used to working fucking 80 hours a week and that's a workaholic with their family and stuff like that. Like we all know a few of those. I feel like these people, once they're forced to be at home and just be able to do the bare minimum, even if they still work from home, like I think some of them are going to be like, I don't need this. I don't need all the money. I don't need all the thing, because even if you have all the money, like your money is pretty much worthless at this point right now, right? Because you're stuck at home. You can only spend it on certain things. Like we're all in the same boat right now. We're all stuck at home.
That's it.
We're all waiting for good news. And the thing that kind of scares me is that I listen to only sports thing, and they all talk about the coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of get some of the news on the virus through sports or sports people. And a lot of them seem to think like, because we're about 18 months away from a vaccine, they're saying that's about the length that it's going to take to get a vaccine ready for humans. Before they have a vaccine for the people, like we'll never be allowed to be
in contact,
in groups or in contact, because I can't see at this point being 100% certain that we've eradicated all the cases like that, right? It's like, oh, all of a sudden there's no more new cases. It's been, say, 2 weeks. There's no more new cases where, and then you're like, go outside. And then within a week, you're like 1,000 new cases. And you're like, fuck.
Well, because I read it's supposed to come in a wave too, eh? It's supposed to go down during the summer and pop back in during when it starts getting cold again. And I was like, goddamn,
like regular flu, right? It's like when people start going outside more because it's cold outside, or going inside more because it's cold outside, that's when people get in contact more, and that's how it's spread. I saw something yesterday, or I heard something on a podcast, which made me think how crazy it was. I think you can find it online. I didn't Google it because I didn't want to be scared, but they did a thing, all those students that were on March break that were like in Florida and stuff.
Oh,
and that first week, they were all on the social media like, fuck this coronavirus.
Oh, yeah. The cops are like beanbagging them after.
Well, They follow, because a lot of these kids are from anywhere in the country, right? They go there on vacation, and they followed like 6 cell phones. They traced 6 cell phones that went back to their home state, and they showed where they traveled when they got back. And they said if these people have the coronavirus and they're just going back, and they showed how fast it could spread by just 6 people within a day of everywhere they went. They went to the store, they went here, they met people here, they got in contact with other people. They said it was insane just by 6 people. So you can imagine kids that are asymptomatic, and that don't show any symptoms. You're like, go play outside. And then they touch another kid, and that kid is also asymptomatic, and then go kisses his grandfather or grandmother, then it's like, fuck, like.
And that the virus stays alive for up to 2 weeks. It's like you touch a play set, you go play on that 2 hours later, nobody's there. You're like, oh, it's safe. But your kid now has it too. And that's the thing. It's like it's going so quickly, but people, especially the States, like by the time they're going to get a reach on it, it's too late. I was talking to a friend from Alberta, called me this morning, asked him how it is out there. He's like, well, they were very preemptive. He's like where they are, he's like they kind of started imposing these measures before it got spread. So he's like, now they kind of have it under control. It's like Quebec is kind of in the middle, like we didn't do it right away, but we did it pretty hard and fast once we did it. So it's kind of trying to contain it. But no, it's ridiculous. And like you don't realize how much, like, you touch your face, how many things you touch during the day, how close you are to people until you're told not to do it. And you're like, shit, like, keep 6 feet from other humans. I'm like, we're such a social creature. Even people who's like, even if you're like, what's the word? When you want to be by yourself, what is it called?
Introvert.
Yeah, when you're an introvert, even at that, you still have a lot of contact with people, like you're still riding the bus, going to work, going to school, going to train. I was like, just like wrestling training. I'm like, just think about it, like the contact and that. It's ridiculous. I'm like, when you're told not to do that, you're like, damn, like now it's so weird now living like this, because I'm like, it's nothing we've ever experienced,
I think here's another thing that it doesn't worry me, but I think it's inevitable. I have a hard time with that fucking word. I think that a lot of people are going to get used to this way of life of this is it now. Like people after a while, if this lasts 2, 3 months, 4 months, this is going to become the new norm, the new day-to-day. It's going to become the new routine, right? And those people are going to become like, this is it. This is my new life. I'm used to it. I love it. People are going to start being happy and they're going to start appreciating the smaller things and stuff. And then the government's going to go, okay, go back to normal. You can go outside. And then people are going to be like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. And then you're going to be like, that's why I think the economy, even when people, it's like I try to picture it in my head, like the day they say you can go outside. Like I try to picture it, and I can't see the malls being full. I can't see the parks being full. I can't see the streets. Like it's either going to be everybody goes outside and there's a big party, or people are just going to peek their head out the door and go, what's up, man? Well,
it's like for you as like a father, like if they said like, oh, Monday it's cured, we're good. Like, are you going to take your kids out to a theme park that day? It's like, no, you're going to wait to see like, okay, is it back? Is there other cases? It's like and that's natural. And for people now to have the disposable income to go, let's go out to a restaurant. Well, hell, I haven't worked in 2 months. Like, okay, we're not doing anything.
So the economy is definitely struggling because no one's working. A lot of people not working. And there's no money going anywhere except for fucking toilet paper and Lysol wipes.
Yeah, that's it.
And they're all out of stock, so you can't even buy the things that people want to buy. And then like I said, you add the fact that that a lot of people not working. When this all comes back to normal, they have to go back to work. Like it's gonna take a couple of weeks before people start getting paychecks and be able to go out to restaurants. Yeah. So in a way, it might like gradually get better, but like you have to expect like gas won't go back to being $1.29 here. It's 80 some fuck. It's almost 80 cents now.
I was in Hawkesbury. It was like 78 cents. Like this was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. But it scares me a bit too though, because like just for like pro wrestling, for live music events, for anything like that, like this has a huge impact on like especially indie wrestling. Like WWE can survive, different business models, but like for people for the feds in Montreal to run shows without fans there, there's no resources to do that, so I'm a little worried about for up and coming bands for pro wrestling and in the independent scene, things like that. How is that going to come back? How are we going to get the fans to feel safe to come back to these events, things like that,
Well, I think you're going to have it's going to be separated in two groups. You're going to have a group that's just waiting for those festivals to come back, right? And the minute the tickets go on sale, they're going to be like, I'm fucking going outside. I lost a year or two of not being able to go to these festivals. And then you're going to have the other group that's going to be like, pump the brakes. Number one, I don't have money to spend on the ticket. Number two, I don't feel safe being surrounded in large groups anymore.
Yeah,
people
to shoulder,
are going to become paranoid. Yes. It's weird because it's kind of creating a group of people that are going to become so paranoid about just being in groups and being near people that a lot of people that were maybe not introverts before this whole thing started, they might become simply by just being scared of getting back to normal. And I think a lot of people are underestimating the time it takes to get out of a certain routine. Yeah. So if we fall into the routine of staying at home and not getting out of our house and being able to do everything from home as well, people are going to realize wait a minute, I can work from home and I'm more productive than when I used to go to the office.
See your kids more, and that's it.
I'm happy here. I have less anxiety. What the fuck's going on? I don't need. Well, I feel great. I feel a lot better than I did before this whole thing. And then they're going to be like, well, maybe this is how I need to live my life from now on. And then, so I think it's going to bring on a lot of changes in society. I think it's going to bring in a lot of changes in government. I was telling my wife yesterday, she was like, oh, I think you're exaggerating a little bit. I said, listen, because I was talking to her about the vaccine and what I had heard what the sports guys were talking about. And I said, you have to think the government right now is losing so much money. The economy is so bad because of this, and it's only going to get worse. I said, you have to think that the government will never, ever, ever, ever be willing to take a chance for anything to bring anything even remotely close to this situation again. I said, if they can bring a vaccine that they need to shoot everybody in the country, that's what they're going to fucking do. They're going to make it mandatory for everybody because they're like, listen, I know you guys, a lot of you people think that this is a conspiracy theory and this is just so we can pump you full of shit that you don't really need so that someone makes a lot of money. But fuck, man, if that vaccine doesn't kill you or, you're like, the government is going to be like, everyone needs it because it's the only way we're going to be allowed to go outside now.
And there's too much to lose. Wow. That's it,
Exactly. We can't be going through something like this every 10 years because someone ate a fucking bat somewhere. Who fuck knows, right? It's and it's fucked up, man. But let's talk about the impact on pro wrestling, because being in the business of pro wrestling, both of us, you're absolutely right. The independent promotions, especially the ones that were already struggling, and there's a lot of those. A lot of these promotions work on a month to month. It's like working on paycheck to paycheck, right? It's you make enough money on a show to pay a few of the guys and to basically break even or make maybe a couple $100. Except for maybe the big promotions here in Quebec. Let's talk even in Canada, there may be a few that were making obviously a lot of money, and we can name a few, right? Yeah. But for the smaller ones that maybe ran shows every 2 months or even ran a show every month, but maybe had 100 to 125 people in the crowd, even less. Just being able to kickstart that promotion. Once everything comes back to normal, you're like, I haven't had any revenue. I had to sell half my stuff to fucking feed my family. Yeah. It might not get to that point, but
I think a lot of fans or anybody, even people just on the outside of the wrestling business, they don't realize the amount of work and the amount of investment goes in, even to small scale wrestling shows, to transport the equipment, to get the seats there, to get lights, to get a ramp, to get guardrails, to have staff, to have people set up, have people medical, there's so many odds and ends. I'd entertain the idea of maybe promoting a show. And then I was like, my God, I'm like, I need to have a lot of time and a lot of money if I want to do this right. Like it's crazy the amount of work that goes into it. And what really scared me with the wrestling is like it was Triple H said something when they're asking about WrestleMania and how now it's over 2 nights and that. And he's like, everyone keeps saying, oh, when it gets back to normal, it gets back to normal. He's like, I don't think it'll ever get back to normal, what we considered normal. He's like, maybe the new normal will be these pre-filmed in front of like, closed studios, things like that. And I was like, that's horribly sad, especially for wrestling. It's like there's so much of the energy from the crowd that buys into the match, that plays into the whole atmosphere. Because I know some people have been sort of crapping on the fact that AEW and WWE, they're filming in front of empty arenas. And I was like, well, first off, they're still putting on a show for you. These guys are leaving their homes and they're busting their ass still to put on a show. So I'm like, F you, like you should be appreciative that they're doing that. But at the same time, you can feel it's different. It's like watching even a small indie show with 20 people and watching people just run through a shine or something in the ring during practice. Like, yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, you can see the potential, but there's a big difference between a live show and I find like the longer it goes for the performers themselves, it's like so much, like for me, so much of it is reaction of the crowd, for them booing me or cheering you or whatever it is. Like, to not have that anymore, it's a huge element taken away from the performance of being a pro wrestler.
I think you make a great point, and I think Triple H was right. But here's my point of view on this, and simply from watching, I've actually started watching the WWE product again. I hadn't watched WWE, Raw, SmackDown, even NXT for months.
Yeah.
And when they started filming in front of no crowds, I was like, let me check it out. My son watches it, so sometimes I'm on the couch and I just peek up. And he loves AEW, so he watches it on Wednesday as well. And from what I see on TV, AEW by far, the empty arena, they're doing it better. So much better.
Yeah.
The camera angles, the way they film, and it got me thinking yesterday. I'm like, why is that? And then I'm like, AEW are more of the indie, right? And they're used to having camera guys film tight shots to negate the fact that there's only 25 people in the crowd, or 50 or 100 people. So the action in the ring, the way they film it, number one, I love it. Way better than Raw. The thing too is that right now, if I look at AEW and the way they're doing their business, they're letting the wrestlers that are in the building be fans in around the ring. Yeah. And they're like, it's like more of a like, it's got like a feel of like, everybody's in the back in the same room, and they're even the heel. It gives you a different feeling. The people are a little bit more like less intense, but the matches are like, I was watching a Kenny Omega match yesterday and I was like, his reactions are the same. Like, he's a great wrestler.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's nobody in the audience, you couldn't tell the way his facials, his reaction. And I'm like, I think this is going to be a huge boost for independent wrestling. If the ones that take advantage of promoting it online and YouTube and filming it in a way in small, close-knit things. And I think big promotions, well, there's only one, like WWE, like the Raw and the SmackDown, and even the NXT at this point, like, because they all operate under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
I think they're the ones that are going to have to either adapt to a more indie style, or people are just not going to go back. Like this WrestleMania that they're doing this weekend, this, in my opinion, the way they present this, because it's already being pre-recorded, like, I don't know, it's all pre-recorded, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So I found out this week, and it's been pre-recorded for a while now. I think Vince McMahon basically, like, once he realized that he might only have a couple of weeks of running shows with no audience, he was like, who's in the building? We'll just rewrite all the storylines around who's available to wrestle. And I think the way he's going to present it this weekend in 2 separate nights, and the way it's filmed, and the way, I think, in my opinion, it's either make or break. I think a lot of people are going to go like, this is not working for WWE the way they're doing it with no audience. when AEW is doing it so much better, But then again, they might present it in a way where you're like, yes, this fucking works. Let's see if you can carry this over. But I also think that after WrestleMania is done, I think WWE altogether is going to be like, we need to take a break from wrestling. Well, I think they're going to be forced to take a break and not be able to pre-record anything anymore. Because once they get like the lockdowns like in the United States, like I don't think they'll be able to get together and film any type of wrestling
unless they film like one match at a time, like that's it. And I think for the shots you're talking about, like AEW, because what do I know in the grand scheme? But I mean, like from what I could imagine, WWE is such a huge corporate machine. Like to change direction for a ship that size, it's long and slow. Whereas AEW, I think they have a bit more leeway that they adapt quicker. They're a bit like the way South Park, they produce shows week by week. So like them, something's topical that week, they have an episode done. Whereas WWE, it's like a planned season. Whereas if something happened this week, it's too late. We've already written it, we've already filmed it, we've already produced it. Like AEW can respond quicker to things like that. Whereas WWE, it's so massive. It's like, well, we got to get all the teams on board, we got to get all the production on board. Like, so they'll definitely adjust. Like, Vince McMahon, everyone back there, like they're obviously they know what they're doing. They're good at what they do. Yeah. But I think it's just a question for them to figure out where they're going to go with it. I think there'll be more like backstage segments like there were in the Attitude Era, things like that. That's one thing personally I always felt was missing. I always felt like the backstage, growing up watching wrestling, the backstage was like this living atmosphere backstage. Whereas now I find if they're doing interviews, yes, but otherwise it's like you kind of get the feeling once they're behind the curtain, Seth Rollins becomes Colby Lopez. He's no longer. Whereas before it was like when The Rock went behind the curtain, if he ran into Stone Cold, ran into Mankind, they still had the same kind of interactions, and it was like a live environment. Whereas maybe they'll have to bring something like that back, but it's weird to think, and it's like so much of my life has been geared towards wrestling. The thought of like such a major change happening to like the very nature of it is it's a little unsettling too, because I've been gearing to come back, and then it's like, what am I coming back to?
Well, I think a lot of independent wrestlers are gonna go like, do I really need this in my life? Yeah. Like when everything comes back to normal, I think you're gonna see a lot of people not go back to wrestling.
Well, especially you go 6 months without beating your body up every week, and then like, oh my god, hey, my neck isn't sore for once when I wake up.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the people that are in it for life, are obviously going to go back. But the people that are already on the fence of like, do I really want to be doing this for another so long, so many years to put my body through much? Like I kind of, it's weird because because of my injury, I got concussed, and then like 2-3 weeks later, everything was basically shut down. And I was like, I was dealing with this fucking injury that was fucking with me and questioning if I even wanted to return back to wrestling. And then when everybody was forced to stop wrestling, it put me in the same bucket as everybody else. Yeah, but I was already in that bucket. Yeah. And it was like, I've been here for 3 weeks already, like feeling sorry for myself and dealing with this fucking injury and all the garbage that it brings along. And now I'm like, I'm feeling a lot better. I still have symptoms, but they're a lot less severe. I can work out now, and I can do like pretty intense. I could do some pretty intense cardio without feeling any of the symptoms, or I'll feel like some at night, like being at home. I'm definitely more on my phone. I'm more in front of the computer. I'm doing all these things. Definitely more in front of the television. So I'll have the headaches and my eyes are like hurting and shit like that, but. The big headaches, the dizziness, the anxiety, all that shit, it's kind of like better every day. But now I'm at a part where I'm like, okay, like fuck, like I'm feeling better. Obviously, like I'm not really thinking of, I'm probably going to go back to this once everything goes back to normal. But there's still a thought in my mind where I'm like, wait a minute, like I feel a lot better not putting my body through this every weekend. And, and it's like, whew. It's scary because I'm like, do I really want to, especially when it comes to my concussion issues and my head trauma, it's like, do I really want to chance it one more time to get the same injury? And I know it's just going to be even worse the next time around. Yeah. Like these things don't get any easier. I'm not getting any younger. It's like, eesh. But then that that part of me that says that part of me that says shut up, you pussy, and just fucking
get to work.
just bite down and take your licking. And if you can't remember where you put your fucking keys in 10 years, well, that'll be the bigger keychain. That's it, right? It's like, it's and you were dealing with an injury too. Like it's like it puts us all in the same bucket, and you're like, oh, okay, welcome. And then you're like, it sucks, right? And then
everything you said there, that's it. It hits it right on the nose. Because like, first off, it's great to hear you're doing better. Because I remember last time we saw each other, that's it. It was scary stuff there. So it's good to hear you're feeling better. And for the past. It's been over a year now. I've been dealing with this non-existent injury because, of course, I claim I've never been injured. But it's been over a year I've been dealing with this, and I had a rendezvous to go see the doctor April 2nd, and then because of all this, I did a telephone interview, and I'm like, Doc, I just don't see the point of doing a knee exam over the fucking telephone. I'm like, what are you gonna do with this? So he's like, he's sending me for another MRI. He's like, I don't know when you're gonna do that, but definitely it's weird that I went for so long, like over a year. I've been dealing with like the thought that I can't wrestle, that I'm on the sidelines, that I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't train properly, I can't, and now it's like, it doesn't matter. Nobody can wrestle. There's no shows. I'm not falling behind. I'm not like everything is done. And even before the COVID thing, before like it was the whole industry was shut down, a lot of those thoughts came in my head, like, because all of a sudden it's like I get home at for a reasonable time. I have supper at, I'm not, because before it's like, especially where I'm filming this, I used to live up north, so I had like a 2-hour drive from the dojo where we train, the Torch Chamber Pro Wrestling Dojo. So it'd be like a 2-hour drive to get there, train for 2.5 hours, 2-hour drive home, get home at 1 a.m, get up at 5, go to work. And I did that for so long when I was tagging with Nate Sharp. It was like he lived in Vermont, so we're both doing that every day. And I'm like, I don't know how the hell we did that for so long. But when I went to like a more normal life, where I was at home and it was like 7:30. I'm like, I can watch a movie. I'm like, what is wrong? Like something feels different. I'm like, oh, it's because I'm not just training all night and like because I find for pro wrestling, if you want to do it right, like whether you make it or not, whether you get to your goals, whatever it is, to do it right, you have to go all in. Like I find the guys that if you train once, a couple days before a match, I don't find that's like you're not doing it right. For me, it's like this is pretty much my life, and this is even now I've been training for years to whatever capacity I can to prepare to return. But then those thoughts creep in, like, do I really want to do that? What if I come back in and I cripple myself and I can't walk? It's like, but then there's always that part of me that's like, yeah, but you want to go back. You want to wrestle again. So it's like, but the healthier I get, the more I'm like, fuck it, I want to go back. Like I want to try it again. So it's no, definitely that. And then the COVID thing just turned my whole thought process around, because I was like, now everyone's in that same boat, kind of evaluating, I'd rather spend more time with my family, or do I want to be gone every weekend and traveling every 2 days? And that's it. So it's definitely it's like strange new directions that we're going into now. So
yeah, I think a part of me thinks that the pro wrestler in me is gonna go like, it's just gonna awake when all this is back to normal. It's just gonna be like, okay, starting to get back to normal once I can start training again and start being back. And the pro wrestling, like here's the thing too, right? I've only been doing this for 4 years. This is like it's minuscule in pro wrestling, right?
Couldn't tell from watching you though. That's it.
Thank you. Those are extremely nice words. But there, to add to your point, like pro wrestling is one of those things that you can only be great if you're 100% committed to the craft of pro wrestling and be able to deal with all the bullshit of professional wrestling and be able to persevere through all the bullshit of professional wrestling and be in 100% every single time you're in that world. So for me, to give an example, and I was thinking about this today, because I was thinking about when I was like, I'm going to talk to Dawson today, and I'm like, what are we going to talk about? It's probably going to surround ourselves around wrestling and all that shit. Yeah. And I was like, pro wrestling is like, there's a lot of things you can do in life where you don't have to be all in, where you can just dabble in it and it's fine. That's what we do. Most people, that's what it is, right? But pro wrestling, being a mixed martial arts fighter, like there's certain things that you do in life that to be great at it, to be successful. No, you can be successful without it, but like great and one of the greats, like you have to be 100% committed. There's not a lot of room for anything outside of professional wrestling. And for me, the 4 years that I've been in the business of professional wrestling, I'm 39, going to be 40 this year. I embarked on this when I was like 35, going on 36. Like the 4 years that I gave everything I had, like it made, right now it's making me realize, like, I have never been injured in the 4 years. I've never taken time off. This was the first time I had an injury serious enough to make me like, yo, like, you stop. You have to. There's no choice. And then you sit back and you look at it from different perspective and you go, like, I remember the first couple of weeks, the first 2 weeks were the roughest because I was so used to wrestling every Saturday that my anxiety towards the wrestling match itself would always start like on the Thursday. I was talking about this with Mark on the podcast I recorded a couple of episodes ago. I think it was with him. I say my anxiety like always starts like on the Thursday because I start thinking about the match. Oh, I have a match on Saturday. It's with so-and-so. Like and then I go through the different scenarios, different spots, different things I want to do. But it ramps up my energy. It ramps up my anxiety because being an anxious person, like, you might not be able to tell, but when I'm fucking in the back and I'm about to go up through the curtains, like for the hour or two before I go out to perform, like, it's like, whew, there's a lot of emotions that I have to deal with and stay like buried, because if I let all those fucking emotions out like loose, I wouldn't even be able to make it to the ring. I'd be freaking out or bawling out, like it'd be fucked up. It takes a lot of energy to keep those shit and then be able to go out there, and once the match is finished and everything went well, to be able to release all that energy, like, it's exhausting. And even though I wouldn't wrestle anymore, like, by the Thursday, Friday, I had the same energy.
Yeah, you're getting ready for it. That's it, man.
I had to tell myself out loud, like, yo, you're not wrestling Saturday. You don't have to worry about all this. And it took me like 2-3 weeks to like get out of that routine of getting ready for my matches and prepping and mentally ramping myself up, because like most of us like that take this shit seriously, like on the Saturdays that I wrestle, like I'm the wrestler. I'm that guy turned up to 11. I'm ramped up. I'm all business. It gradually grows, but by the time I make it to the arena or wherever I'm performing that night, like I'm Stefan Paulson. I'm not the father, husband, like chill at home podcaster. I'm the fucking pro wrestler that's here to give somebody a fucking whooping and to try to get a few cheers and claps along the way and not get it hurt, right? And now that I don't have to go through that, it's not much of a transformation, let's be honest. You know the real me and you know the wrestler. There's not much separation in me. I don't play a big character that's so different from who I am, but just the fact that I don't get to burn that energy off every Saturday, I had to like either put it somewhere else or just like kind of come to the realization that, am I willing? Is it worth it at this point for me? Like all these questions have always been like, dude, you're 39, about to be 40. Yes, you're fit. You're in shape. Now, no injury. Then boom, concussion, head issues, all that shit. And then you're like, these things are not going to, there's nothing that's going to get easier at that point. If you want to keep everything on the level like it is now, you're just every few months, it's just going to be, you're going to have to work harder. Because you're getting older, so to stay at the same level, the work is just going to become harder and harder and harder. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like I see a lot of guys not being able to walk too well in their 50s and 60s, and I'm like, yo, like, whew. And I put my body through 10 plus years of martial arts, and
that's it.
Like,
And it's not like, and your wrestling style isn't exactly like, hey guys, let's go out there, take it real easy. We're gonna make it real soft. You know, it's like they're solid matches. You know, so it's, and that it does take a toll for sure. Like what were you saying about like the emotions and the prep? It's like, because the thing is, we're athletes and performers. So no matter what we do, even if outside we train twice as much because we can't wrestle, that performance, like that's why I felt I was really missing. Even as a manager, like I love doing it. I love contributing. I love helping out. I love being a part of the show. But like I can feel it's like if you want a shot of whiskey and someone's like, oh, here's some root beer. You're like, yeah, you know, it's like I still, you know, I quench the thirst, but it's not quite the same. So it's like no matter what we do, those of us that love this and love doing it, obviously there's the athlete in us and there's the performer in us, and without that stage, it's like I knew when I got injured, I need another outlet. So like I was looking at stand-up comedy, I was looking at maybe podcasting, looking at all different things. If I was better at playing guitar, I'd be like, let's start a band. But I was like, basically, I needed another outlet because I found just doing my 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 job, coming home, eating, you know, training. Like I really felt something was missing in my life. So it's like, that's why I was like, I don't know if I could walk away from wrestling. But definitely, that was one concern my father had a lot. He was worried, like, you know, what if you get injured and you can't walk? You can't, because my knee, like the first few months, I couldn't walk. I was on crutches. I couldn't do anything. And this is by far the most severe injury I've ever had in my life. So I was like, you know, but then again, the match before that, the match when we won the titles, when I won the titles with Caden Rose, I damn near broke my neck on a blockbuster. Like I was like, oh, I could clear this gap. And I jumped. I was like, no, I'm not going to clear that gap. And I came almost straight down onto my neck. And I was like, and that I was fine. So it made me realize, I'm like, it's so, it could be any moment could be your last. Oh, that's what Drew always says too. Your last bump could be your last one. You know, this bump could be your last bump. And I was like, it's always that weight. Like how much do I want to do this? How much do I want this compared to, you know, when I want to have kids at some point, but I'm already 33 now. So I'm like, do I want to have kids? And I'm like 65 and broken when they're turning 20, you know, like I was like, so that's always sort of running through my head. But I always find like whatever it is that draws me to pro wrestling, it's always there. Like, and the more I'm watching it at home, and the more I'm like, God damn, I miss this, you know. And I've been watching some indie wrestling because there's certain wrestlers I wanted to look up there, like Shotzi Blackheart is a wrestler I've been getting into. So I was like, I wanted to look up some of her matches. And the more I watch like indie wrestling, I'm just like, God damn, I miss this so much. I was like, it's so unique into itself, you know, like.
Well, we're artists, right? I consider pro wrestling an art to a certain extent, and we're all the good ones anyway. The good wrestlers, or not necessarily good, but I think a lot of people that are people that are pro wrestlers, they're creative, and I tried to explain this to someone one day. I'm like, I always felt from a young age that I was I was an artist, that I was creative. I just couldn't figure out how to express that creativity, because I didn't know how to draw. So a lot of people are like, well, you're creative, like, so you can draw well, you can paint. Like, no, like I can't do those things. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I'm not an artist. Like I need to find what my how I get to explain to people or show people how I'm creative. And being an entertainer is something I gradually grew into, and then, but like the performing aspect of pro wrestling, where I get to put two things that I love, like performing and the physical battle of pro wrestling. The fact that we weren't like, you can go to the gym and burn that energy up do your physical energy, but like that creative energy, if you don't have an outlet for it, and you don't get to perform and make people boo you or cheer for you. Oh yeah. It sounds like narcissistic, I guess is the word I want to use, right? Where I'm like, oh, like I need my cheers or I need my attention. Please pay attention to me. Like, I'm not afraid to admit that there's a part of me that enjoys the attention of people. Like, I think as pro wrestlers, you kind of need that. Well, you kind of have to crave that. Like, I want people to enjoy themselves. So my job is to make them boo or make them cheer. And then you kind of take pride into that. And once you start realizing that that's your art, that's how you get to be creative and really get rid of that creative energy. And I think a lot of people don't see it like that. So sometimes when I explain pro wrestling to people that aren't into pro wrestling, and I tell them, I'm like, yeah, I'm a pro wrestler, and they kind of look, they always give you two look. They either go, really? Or they give you that, like, what? Like, pro wrestling, like Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, that's the go-to. Hulk Hogan?
And then you're kind of stuck explaining to them, if you want. You don't have to, I don't owe anybody anything, right? It's just my own fucking decision. I do whatever the fuck I want. But like, if it's someone that I have respect for, that I'm friends with, or that I try to explain it in a way where I'm like, listen, it's an art for me, and that's how I feel that I can be creative by putting my body through all that bullshit, but also by trying to get a reaction from people, positive, negative, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of people that don't understand pro wrestling have never been able to make people cheer for them, boo them, or react to them by just a facial, something they did in the ring.
Yeah.
Once you get that first cheer, that first pop, you're like, oh, what?
It's crazy.
What is this fucking feeling? And then you're like, it's like a drug. You're like, woo. And then you just want to chase it and chase it. People that aren't interested in getting anybody's attention or approval kind of don't understand that concept, right? And it's I always take stand-up comedy in a way, because I'm like, there's not many great stand-up comedians out there that had a perfect childhood, or that had that they grew up with the perfect. There's not some sort of a trauma in their life that made them the way they are, to be able to see the world from their perspective, right? And I think a lot of pro wrestlers, although I'm not talking about childhood or anything, but there's still an aspect of, it's like, they're so, if you really think about it, like pro wrestling, it's like, there's not a lot of us. There's a lot of people that think they can do it. Yeah. Yes. It's
people
like
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's like, there's a lot of people that can pretend they're pro wrestlers, but like, to be really good at pro wrestling, to be a really great pro wrestlers, and we know a few, right? We've met a few, and it's there's not a lot of us. We're the minority in a society. Like I said earlier, like, a lot of people, and when you tell them you're a pro wrestler, they kind of give you that look like, what? Like, this is still there's people that literally told me, like, what, this is still a thing? Well, they don't even know there's an independent scene. They just know of like WWF or WWE, right? And then you try to explain to them, no, there's independent promotions everywhere around town. And then it's like, you try to perform, you try to build your way up, and they're like, oh, okay. People that are in sports understand, they're like, oh, it's like the minor leagues. You're like, yes, exactly. Yeah, I perform on the minor leagues until an agent sees me and goes, that guy, hire him, or let's recruit him. But other people that don't understand that concept, they're like, oh, wait a minute. You put your body through all that bullshit for no money, or for $20 or for $30?
Not enough to cover your gas. That's it.
And you traveled, you're away from your family and all this, and then deal with all the bullshit. You're like, why? And then you're like, do I really owe them this explanation? Do I really want to get into it? And that's why pro wrestlers, they hang around with pro wrestlers, because it's like one of those things that you understand each other.
Even we all sacrifice the same stuff. We all put our bodies through it. That's it. Like, you have a bond just through the physical aspect and the mental aspect,
It sucks that right now we're not able to express ourselves through that thing, either through us injuries / this COVID-19 bullshit. The fact that nobody can do it now, and nobody can perform, and nobody has that outlet. Like, back to your point earlier, like, I started really putting a lot of energy behind this podcasting thing for myself, because it's always something I've wanted to do. I've tried it before 3 or 4 different times, and it was just so time consuming, and I was just not ready to put all that energy behind because I was busy becoming a pro wrestler, or being a pro wrestler, or even before that, like martial arts, or becoming a father. And every time I would launch a podcast, I would always make excuses. I'll be like, well, I got kids now, I don't have time for this. I can only record on weekends, and a lot of people aren't available or not willing to come, and these all sorts of excuses.
Yeah.
And then
then it dawned on me that like for 4 years now, almost my only identity is being a pro wrestler. And to the fact that you stated earlier is like, my identity is one bump away from being taken from me. Like I'm one injury away from not being able to be a pro wrestler anymore. And if that's the only identity I had, like, whoa, like look, outside of pro wrestling, I'm a father, I'm a husband first, right? So for me, I could that can be part of my identity for sure. But for people that don't have families, that are single, that don't have that their identity are 100% pro wrestling, and they're 100% committed, if they fall on their head one day and they can't be performers anymore and they don't have anything to fall back on, and then you're like, fuck, then you have the chances of falling into depression and anxiety, all that bullshit, because you're like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? All I want to do is be a pro wrestler. So once I really decided to be like, this podcasting is really something I've been meaning to do and wanting to do for so long. Like I need to 100% commit to it. And I also need to expand, the fact that my identity, like I can't only be a pro wrestler. Like a perfect example of me getting injured with this bullshit concussion right now. Like it's made me realize, like, now, dude, if you can't go back to pro wrestling for whatever reason, like you have your job that pays the bills for now, but I don't want to be. I have a vision. Yeah. I want to be my own boss soon, and I want to be able to make money and supply and
doing something you want too. That's it.
Yeah, support my family. Like I have a goal, and it's like that's why now I'm doing a lot more podcasting. I'm putting a lot more effort and energy behind this because I'm trying to build a brand outside of wrestling. Just because I enjoy doing this. The thing with podcasting that I enjoy. And it's weird because only since this fucking coronavirus bullshit where people are willing to come via Skype, a lot of the times like people weren't willing to travel to come to my house because I have a studio in my home. So, and I never thought of doing them via Skype because I always enjoy the interaction of being one-on-one, right? So a lot of the guests that I had were either friends that lived close or people I knew that were willing to travel. And, dude, by doing this by Skype, like
avenues.
Yeah, but it gives me an opportunity to do one thing that I love, and it's to fucking talk and be able to have a conversation with people that I find interesting and that I find that I could fucking look, we've been talking for 58 minutes.
It goes quick. That's it. At first I was like, what are we going to talk about? And I was like, oh shit, it's been an hour. I was like, oh my God.
Right? I don't do interview styles. Like I have another one after this, actually. I'm doing a podcast with Emily Parker.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's going to be like, I told her, I said, I don't do interview style. Like I'm not one to sit there and ask you. I don't write anything down. If I do, it's just something that I want to bring up. Like for her, for example, it's like, I'm extremely interested in knowing why she put so much effort at becoming great at something like being a pro wrestling referee. It intrigues me. Plus she's an interesting person. She's good at what she does.
Yeah.
And I want to see her perspective on why she chose that,
obviously. Well, so many people sort of brush it off as like, oh, it's just be a ref, just put a shirt on and do it. But I'm like, no, you play an important role, and the fact that she takes it so seriously, it gives you confidence. If she's in your match, it gives you confidence. If you need her to do a spot, you're like, at least she's paying attention, she understands, she knows why we're doing it. It's not just like, okay, boss, I'll be I've seen refs allow tags between the rope and stuff that doesn't make sense, and I'm like, buddy, you can't even do the bare minimum of what your job's supposed to be.
Only pro wrestlers will understand how really important. Only people in the business will truly understand the importance of having the referee and how
Like in my opinion, in the matches, it's the most important. It's one, if not the biggest factor in the match.
Yeah.
The most important thing in the match. Because having a great referee in your match versus having a shitty referee makes the whole fucking difference.
And it gives you so many more options. Like not just in ref bumps. It just gives you more options in having them push you away and having them know when to start counting and
yes.
There's so many different ways you can take a match if the ref is on par and on board with you.
But back to what I was saying, like I do these podcasts not like simply, honestly, because I enjoy having conversations with people. Like if you came over to my house, let's say this coronavirus shit wasn't a thing, and I say, hey Dawson, let's come over for dinner tonight. Me and the wife are gonna cook. We're gonna have some fucking blast. Like you'd sit at my table and we'd talk all night and we'd talk about all sorts of bullshit. We wouldn't have a hard time finding anything to talk about, right?
No, that's it.
We've done that before, and I'm like, I enjoy it so much. Obviously I talk a lot. I enjoy it, but there's something about having a conversation with people that just makes time go by, and then you get to find out stuff, and you get a different perspective on the people that you think you really know, and then you're like, I see a different way of you thinking the more and more I talk to you. And that's really what I want to do with these podcasts. Like that's why I don't do interview. That's why I don't do really any prep. I ask people and I go, listen, do you want to come on? I'm started doing these Skype, and people are like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I'm just like, hit record. Let's start talking. And it's really where the conversation obviously guides us. If I want to bring something up, I do. But it's like, I'm just, especially in these times right now where I don't get to fucking have any socializing with anybody. Well, it's like I just want to talk to people, and this is the new way. Then this is the fucking new way. Like that's why I enjoy podcasting. I just enjoy seeing the people's perspective, like, because they're not everyone is going to see things my way, and I want to try to be better at, number one, having conversations, and also seeing other people's point of view and not being so like fucking steadfast sometimes in my own fucking bullshit, Well,
because like good conversation, like I can talk all day. Like my biggest problem is I can't shut up. So good conversation. Yeah. The worst is like bad conversation when people like it just like you're talking to them and they're just like, the ground is wet, whatever dumb things they say. I'm like, you just want to drive a screwdriver through your head. But like you're saying about the getting to know people, like riding a truck to Rivière du Loup with your tag partner Mustafa, like I found out so much about him and realized we had so much in common in terms of like our family and a bit of our upbringing and stuff. I was like you would never know that at the surface, we're such different types of people. And a rookie had asked me a while ago about tagging. Well, one rookie had asked me to tag with them before I'd got going with Paradise Boys or Team Tight or anything like that. And I was like, oh Christ, like I'd drive us into a tree. I could not do that because it's like I like the guy. He was, nothing wrong with him. But like for me to sit in a car with you and to drive 3 hours somewhere, I'm like, I'll kill us both. Whereas if you were in a car with me, sitting with Nate, sitting with Pat, sitting with whoever I'm riding with, like the truck drives out for Victory Ring. Like that, for me, that's some of the most fun I have is driving out there in the truck, because it's like the conversation it's 2.5 hours nonstop laughing, having a good time, So it's like, and I think that's what draws a lot of us together is that because we're eccentric, because, before you were saying like the attention thing, one rookie class, Drew's going around asking people like, why do you want to be a wrestler? Fortune, fame, this, since I was a kid. And I was like, nobody said because you're an attention whore. Because like by definition, even if you have a character that's laid back, that isn't like pandering, you're by definition an attention whore. You want to get half naked, go out and wrestle in front of a bunch of random strangers. So it's like, if you're like shy, because one rookie, who, I won't say who because I don't want to bury them on the podcast, but like, they're like, oh, I don't like everybody watching me. And then we're like, well, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, this is by definition, this is people paying to watch you. So it's like, I think that goes into it. So that's why I think like you and I and those of us that have become friends, it's like, even if we're different people at for certain, like what our interests, whatever it is, our music or movies or anything like that, we share like a common a common passion, a common devotion. We're all like goal-driven people. Like you, even if you decide today, hey, I don't want to wrestle anymore, I want to do podcasting. The fact that you're like, when I do it right. Like I respect that and I appreciate that. Like, because me, it's like no matter what I've done in my life, I always do it the best I can. Whether I'm printing out little flyers for shows, whether I'm trying to start up something on the side, like I've never half-assed anything. So when you see people doing the same thing and they're as committed, and you see like, hey, you know, they're injured, they're sore, and they're still going to training, they're still like, it's like obviously you're drawn to these people, kind of thing, you know, like.
It's weird because this podcasting thing for me, like I got kind of ahead of the curve. Like I discovered podcasting obviously through listening to Joe Rogan, right? And like this was like, fuck, man, like 10 years ago, you know? And I was like, and he kept saying like how like anybody could do a podcast, anybody could do a podcast. And I was like, all right, well, I'll do one. It seems like something I would enjoy doing. And then it was just like, I fucking invested like $500-600 in equipment. And then I just started doing it with a friend of mine at first. And I was like, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I start telling people, I'm like, you should do a podcast. Like I've been telling you, like there's a few people that I know. I'm like, dude, like you should have a podcast. With like I'm talking to you right now. Like if anyone that I know needs a fucking podcast, it's you, because you're so fucking good at just spitting shit on like out of the blue. Like let's talk about, if I give you something right now, any subject, you'd be like, boom, you could go heel, you could go face, you could talk shit, you could be nice. It blows my mind. Like when I watch your promos, I'm like, that motherfucker needs a mic in front of him and a camera in front of him all day, every day. And he needs to edit down the funniest shit. And guys like you, and even Brad Alexis, like I fucking got high as fuck yesterday, and I was like going through, and he did a live on his Instagram.
Made to entertain, man. He's made to entertain.
Dude, I fucking love that guy, and his Instagram is fucking hilarious. And yesterday he did a live. I didn't watch it out because I was busy doing something else, but I watched it after. I went through it, and then he did a post about like, should I have a podcast or something? Yeah. And I just texted him. I sent him through like Instagram, like, yo, for sure you should have a podcast. Yeah. And I don't know Brad that well. I like personally, you know, I've seen him in the, the arena, in the back of wrestling, and we've been on the same shows and stuff, and obviously follow each other on social media. We interacted before, but like, I don't know if he would be willing to do one, you know, if he was, I don't know 100% if he was like serious about that question he was asking people, or if it was just like, everybody has a podcast, why the fuck do I need a podcast, right? I can see him going that direction, but dude, like guys like him, guys like you, it's like you would just put a mic and he would just like, he's like you, he could just go, and people are drawn because they want to go like, what kind of crazy shit is Brad Alexis gonna say today? What kind of crazy shit is Wes Dawson gonna cut in his promo? And people, like for me, like my wife will laugh and watch all of you guys' promo. Team Tight, she loved that shit. And my wife's like obviously into wrestling because, hey, I'm a pro wrestler and it's,
can't get away from it,
part of my life, right? But like, she's not like a hardcore fan. Like she'll brush off the promo. She won't watch any other promos except my own sometimes. But every time you guys did a promo or you did a promo, she'll watch it and she'll rewatch it and she'd be like, ha, and it's like,
that's good, man. That's good.
It's like, fuck, man. Like social media is giving us an opportunity to do so many things, and people have a tendency to only see the negative in the social media. Like, it's making us dumb. It's making us this, dude. Like after a while, we're going to have to stop fighting the fact that this technology, these phones, this interaction, the way we interact through cameras and digitally, this is the future. It might not be the near future for you because, you know, you're an older generation, so on and so forth. But like for your kids and your kids' kids and your great, like this is just, you can't stop the snowball effect. Yeah. And it's kind of, you gotta have to stop fighting it and just accept that it's part of your life and try to discover how you could use it in a positive way. And that's why I do podcasting, and that's why I do YouTube and social media and Instagram, because I'm like, I try not to post any negative bullshit. I try.
No, that's it.
There's days that I could fucking post 10-minute videos about a rant that I did with my wife. Like, my wife hears all my rants and all my negative bullshit that I have to talk about XYZ. Yeah. I'll never post it on social media because I'm like, number one, who wants to listen to my negative bullshit?
I could post salt 24 hours a day, but I mean, eventually people, they don't want to see, they want something to get away from the bullshit in life, you know? So at least like that, try to make it entertaining. But I think what's neat is like you and I, like our generation, our age, or, you know, our age brackets, we're in like a unique place that we grew up with nothing. Like we had no electronics. Like me, I remember the handheld games that like were just like the black ink that like you really couldn't see what they were doing. To now we have like touchscreen phones that you and I are communicating, video chat, you know, on the internet. Like it's changed so much over the course of 20, 30 years. Like we can appreciate like these tools way more than generations. Like the older generations, like screw that, we don't need that crap. And younger generations, they don't realize that it's more than just, you know, looking at adult videos and memes on the internet. There's a lot of neat and powerful stuff you can do with the phone. You know, like for us as performers, whether you're in wrestling, whether you're in a band, whether you're an artist, the exposure we get is unbelievable. You know, like I can reach hundreds of people with one post and get people from the States, or oddly enough, I have a lot of fans from the Philippines, where they're like, oh, you know, we like this, they like that. And I'm like, how would I ever reach some guy in Kentucky otherwise? It's because they randomly fell upon this, saw a hashtag they liked. They're like, oh my God, what was that? You know, like it's when used right, it's I find it's almost like weed, social media. Like I find weed is a harmless thing. It's a great thing. Like when used properly, like if you're a motivated, driven person and you get your shit done, smoke as much weed as you want. But it's because some people have the tendency of just smoking it and just like all they do is, you know, mess around, do nothing. So I'm like, the same thing with social media. You can use it just for stupid stuff, but you can use it to promote yourself, to get your name out there. Like I got booked when I was active. I got booked somewhere. The guy's like, it was purely on your promos. He's like, I've never seen your matches. So he's like, it's purely based on the character you put out. I liked your energy, this and that. So they booked me on the show. And I was like, without social media, I never would have had that opportunity, you know? So
it's like to add to your point, like as entertainers, as artists, whatever spectrum you fall into, like musician, independent wrestler, whatever it is, artists of all sorts, social media it's free marketing, and done right, you could reach thousands, if not millions of people by one story, one post,
stats
one
of
hashtag,
watching and when, and like it's crazy.
If you like, they're so like, people kind of go like, oh, social media, you mean Instagram and Facebook? And you're like, yes, but podcasting, I consider that it's like, I get all my information through a lot of podcasts. Like I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and I get a lot of, that's a lot of my content that I intake comes from podcasting. I don't watch much TV anymore, and it's all through social media and podcasting. And I get to select what I want to listen to. You know what I mean? Like, if someone right now is listening to this episode of this podcast and they're interested in what we have to say, then that's good for them, right? Good for us to be able to give them this content to distract them from whatever bullshit they're going through in life. But if that's what we do for you, or what my podcast does for someone, it's like, well, that's kind of the goal, right? And I think like a lot of people, especially unfortunately the older generation, right? They're like, it's bad for your kids, it's bad for this. And you're like, yeah, but it's like in 10, 15 years when they're starting to become adults and social media and this technology is even more rampant and even more immersed, they're going to be like, well, no, our parents didn't let us use phones, and now I'm an 18-year-old that doesn't know how to use a fucking iPhone, and that's never been on social media, and I don't have and then you're like, it's like you kind of have to realize like you're not really doing your kids a fucking future, a favor for the future, if you're just removing that shit away, right?
You can't raise them in a bomb shelter, you know, that's it.
Look, you can choose to raise your kids how you want. If you don't want to give them social media or any phones, look, who am I to tell you no? Like, go ahead. And your kids might grow up and not need this thing. And look, great. Like if I could live on a farm right now and I could raise my own food and do all this and not have to worry about the world outside of me and my kids and my wife, like that's my dream. But I still need to use for my lifestyle social media to be able to try to reach as many people as possible through podcasting, through social media. And I think it's becoming way more and more prevalent, and especially now what we're dealing with, that we're stuck at home and that we're even more attached to this technology and these things, these phones and this social media. People are becoming more and more creative, and they're discovering a lot of different ways to use social media. And and there's part of me that I'm like, finally, I see some of you that I've been thinking in my head, you need to be more active. You need to be more this, put yourself out there more. And then I see them and I'm like, yes, thank you. I love it. And I love seeing that, Well,
it's like even tools I use, like Instagram, I was always very active on it. I still try to be, but it's like, because there's certain guys that I watch for, like there's your posts, Dom, Mike Marston, Brad Alexis. There's certain guys like I know it's going to be entertaining. I like to check it out. But it was Mike Marston, I give props to him, that gave me the inspiration to use the stories more, like do Instagram stuff that doesn't necessarily merit a post, but still entertaining things that are there for the day. And I was like, it's a tool that I already use. I knew how to use, and I was like, but there's still so much more that I'm not getting out of it. And like the podcasting, that's one thing I love. Like you're saying that like the reach you have, and the fact that you can like almost curate your own audience. Because let's say I wanted to have like a talk show or something like that, go to a network, this and that, blah, blah, blah. You may get signed, but you got to do it like this. This is what they want on their station. So I have to change who I am to fit that. Whereas like for a podcast, this is what I do. If you like it, watch it. If you don't, piss off. Because like right now, a little secret side thing is I have been working on a podcast, and I'll put this out publicly because my partner I'm supposed to be doing it with is being a little bitch, and we haven't gotten it rolling yet.
Shots fired.
Oh yeah, I drop his name, but I can't pronounce it properly. But like, cause me, like a lot of the podcasts, I listen to Joe Rogan, I listen to the internet podcasts, I listen to some that are informative, but I listen to a lot of like Tiger Belly with Bobby Lee, 10-minute podcast with Will Sasso, Breanne Cranston, Chris Daly, like a lot of comedy podcasts.
Do you listen to Bad Friends?
No, I haven't yet. That's with
Santino and Bobby Lee.
Is it good?
Dude,
yeah.
It's fucking good.
Okay, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
It's because so me, like I listen to a lot of comedy ones. So my original thought is like I wanted it to be like a 10-minute podcast, like it's just complete stupidity just to make you laugh. But he's like, no, he's like if we do this, he's like, I want to be able to inform. So it's like right now we have my side coming in like a goofy, salty dumbass, and him trying to teach. So I'm like, let's blend that together. Let's try and make a podcast that's informative, but at the same time, it's like, because some of the internet podcasts I enjoy, but it's so dry. It's like 2 hours of them like, well, this is what happened in the world. Well, I think that this would be better. Like, I'm like, I can't listen to a full block of that. And a 10-minute
more
podcast,
like radio, like radio programmed and produced, and there's a boss looking at you like, don't say this, say it like this, say it like that. Like, for me, it's the fact that I get to be as transparent as I want. I get to say whatever I want. I could say all the words that are in my vocabulary, from fuck, cunt, shit to everything. And I have no one's. Yeah. Pew, pew, pew. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. And the more that I do these, the easier they become, the better I become at them. And the more that I get to be who I really am, and not have to ever have to think twice about saying something. If I say it and it comes off crooked, or you might think like, holy shit, did he really say that? Yeah, I guess I did. So it's like, fuck, yeah, there's certain things the certain way that I think that not most people won't agree with. There's things that I think about that not everybody thinks about. And like, even when I do them by myself, when I do like a solo episode and I either talk about like my anxiety and all that bullshit, it's like I'm not doing it to get claps. I'm not doing it to get pats on the back. I'm not doing it to get any sympathy. I'm really doing it because the one time that I did it, people got back to me and said, thank you for being so transparent with your anxiety and your bullshit. It really means a lot, because I go through the same things. So I'm like, well, if I could help even just one person and make them feel better about themselves, or brighten their day by simply reinforcing that they're not alone, fuck, why wouldn't I do that? To the 99% of other people that think that, why you talk about your bullshit? Don't listen to me. You don't have to listen to me. Well, only the people that choose to, right?
Coming from someone like you, I think it's neat too, because like, especially if somebody knows you as a wrestler, it's like, it's badass to fan Paulson, the Savage, his hard ass, kicking ass. And then I think this was before you picked back up the podcast. It was while you took a break between, because you had picked up the Savage Life podcast. and then you took a break, came back. You did a post while you were sitting in your car talking about depression, anxiety, things like that. And I think I wrote you that day, and I was like,
Yes, I
you know,
remember
man,
that.
just hearing that, because I always like some of the things I thought, it was just like I thought it was only me feeling that, and like I came like my father was very much like, you stuff that down, like you don't feel that, like, you know, like you're men do this, you do this, and so it was like to realize like, oh shit, you know, other people deal with the same stuff too, and it's like it's not just you, or it's not just the people that you hear about. Like it was like eye opening to see like, okay, this is like a human experience. You know, like this is something like everyone has to deal with at some point, or you know, some people obviously don't, or some people have it worse than others. But I mean, like it was like humanizing to know like, okay, even people that like, because like you're always someone in terms of training, in terms of everything I've always looked up to. So to see that like okay, he feels that too. Like okay, so at least it's not, you know, you're not alone in that. Because I always found it funny, like, well, if I was in my apartment, I'd show you. Because in my notes, my journals, when I started wrestling, like I take notes from every class. And one thing I wrote, I think I showed it to you once, is like, because I kept clipping my first day there, I kept clipping your jump rope with mine. And I'm like, I'm sorry. The first 2 times, like, yo, it's cool. And then the third time, you like look back, like, motherfucker. And I'm just like, this guy's gonna fucking kill me. I was like, oh my god. I'm like, I don't think he likes me. I was like, oh shit. But no, so that was cool. And like, you know, if you ask Wes Dawson his you know opinion on Stefan Paulson, I'll be like, you know, he's a scumbag. I'd as soon as piss on him than help him if he's on fire. But I mean, Dawson Graham to Stefan Paulson, like, you know, I respect as a performer, as an athlete, as a man, like I respect, and like you know, it was an honor to always be able to train with you and perform with you. You know, like one of my biggest memories, you're talking about like the reaction from the crowds. Yeah. One of my biggest and best memories was the first Montreal Mayhem at Bruxelles.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Paradise Boys against
you know, the referee screwed us over. I think it was what happened. But when you guys defeated us, like Nate and I were on the outside, and hearing the pop you guys got after that match, it was unbelievable. Like I had goosebumps, and everyone's like, "Yeah, but you lost." I'm like, "Yeah, but in loss, we helped create that match." And I was like, it's still one of my favorite matches to go back to, because I was like, it was amazing, you know, like.
I think about it right now, no joke, I have goosebumps. That match, I see pictures of that match or that night, and I'm like, that night, I'll see a picture of my son holding in the crowd from that night. I know it's from that night, and it brings back the memories. Yeah. I don't remember a lot of my matches, even if I wrestled last week. I'll be like, I remember it if I watched it. But man, that match, I remember the heat. I remember the beginning. I remember certain spots because it was the first time we had done that. Like we were still green. Like I was less than a year. Yeah. I was just about a year in my career, I think. Was it? Yeah. And I was like, oh man, that match. Whew, that was that pop after the reaction from people in the back. The people even up to today talking about us in that, you know. Whew, it was hell of
a start. For me, it was the very start of my wrestling career. I think Nate and I had 2 or 3 matches up at FCL in Shawinigan. So that and those are smaller crowds, different types of wrestlers, and so it was like no disrespect, they have some great performers and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But like this was a large scale thing. I think they had near 500 people there. There were people standing in the back, like it was, and to go out there and kill it and be told, you know, that. For all accounts, we had the match of the night. I was like, I was so proud of that moment, and I was like, still my greatest match was a loss, you know. So it's crazy to think.
Look, I appreciate what you know, the things you say about me, and you know, it's I don't like it's not I don't like hearing those things. It's like it's never easy. It's like like there's a part of me that goes, okay, thank you know, you know, but there's a part of me that also goes like, I'm happy to hear that I have an impact on certain people. Yeah. Like there's certain people that I love, like, you know, like we have a group of guys that we always talk to. There's you, there's Mike, there's Dom, there's, you know, Justin, Kevin, Gabriel, all these guys, you know.
K Cruz.
And
I said K Cruz.
And we're like, I have a different respect for you guys because we've been through things that all of us have been through and shared together, right? Yeah. And so when I hear that I like something that I did or the way that I am has a positive impact on another person, it's like fuck, at least that, you know. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like we all have like our own egos sometimes, especially in pro wrestling, where you're like, oh, no, I'll do it my way. And I don't need to listen. Yeah. I think you need a balance of that and being able to listen and take like criticism.
Yeah.
Be able to accept, like the criticism and being told that you're not doing something the right way and that you should be doing it this way. And especially in pro wrestling, you're always going to have someone looking at your matches, and you're always going to have a vet looking at you going, let's see what he does. And then after the match, if they're willing, for me, the like one of the first moment where I really went like, okay, I'm a fucking pro wrestler. It wasn't after my first match. It was after the first time a vet came to me and said, hey, I watched your match. You're doing great. Here are the things that I think you need to improve. And I'm like, if that motherfucker is willing to take his time and energy to come and talk to me and to watch my match, like, woo, like that's when you're like, okay, I'm in the right path here. I'm in the right direction. And I need to start going, like, I need to start listening to these guys, and I need to start doing, or at least trying out and trying to tweak it to my way, but at least trying out the things that they're telling me, because they're at a certain point, you have to realize that they're here and you're there, and that in order for you to get to where they are, you're going to have to do certain things in certain ways and not necessarily your way. But I'm just looking forward to getting back to normal, I guess, and being able to share pro wrestling with other people and with all the fans and stuff.
Yeah, that's like the only kind of plus is that, like we were saying at the start of the podcast, that since the industry stopped, those of us sidelined were kind of in the same boat. Because me, it's like it's been so long since I've been back in the ring. And originally, I was supposed to be training to wrestle again, like in March, get back into the ring a bit, and hopefully be wrestling now, And then I kind of re-injured my knee a few months ago, or about a month and a half ago, basically because my main mantra has been to tell my body to go fuck itself. If something was sore, fuck you, you're gonna do it. This was fuck you, you're gonna do it. And I was like a lot of people told me you can't do that. And I'm like, I'll do it until my body tells me I can't. And then last year, my body was like, yo, you're done doing that. Because I tore my meniscus. I kept fucking around with my knee, and then I completely dislocated it. And so it's like, at least now knowing that, although it sucks, like I'm not saying, haha, it's good for me, I'll be at the same boat. Like at least knowing that probably when wrestling starts coming back, I'll be able to get back at it too. I'm like that. Because I really feel like I'm missing out. Like there's so many things going on, and there's so much like especially Quebec and Ontario, I found like indie wrestling was kind of picking up steam. It was getting a little bit bigger, and then it was like, and like Caden Rose and I, we were supposed to be going to Toronto the weekend after we defended our titles, and I injured my knee. Toronto, and then we're talking about trying to get out to Nova Scotia, and I was like, everything kind of got put on hold because of the injury, and I was like, oh Christ, like everything. I found everything was picking up, but every time I've questioned stuff, I'm like, people always say everything happens for a reason. Like I found I came into wrestling late, and I was always like, I wish I'd done it earlier. And I was like, had I tried to do it at 18 when I wanted to, I would have failed, because I didn't have the drive, I didn't have the motivation. Like the party animal I had in me, I had to exercise that, I had to get that out. Yeah. So it was like I found the time I did it was perfect. I had the drive to because I was really overweight, had time to drop the weight, get into shape for the wrestling and all that. So it's like I was like, whatever happens will happen, and like my age is always playing on my mind, like I'm 33 now, and I'm like, I'm getting old at it. When do I stop? When do I? And I was like, whatever, I'm still going to put everything I can into it. And then, if something comes up that says I can't do it, then I won't. But for now, the goal is to keep going at it. And at least now it's like, there's time to get my head clear, time to get everything set up. And then hopefully when the world goes back to, quote unquote normal, I'll be able to hop back into the wrestling game and continue where I left off.
Fuck, I can't wait. Listen, man, I enjoy it. I could talk to you for hours, but I have another podcast in like 20 minutes.
Well, I just thought it was an hour and a half. I was like, man, we're gonna have like a four-part episode,
I'll probably release this as a one-part. I hate cutting episodes together because I kind of it kills the flow of the conversation.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Look, we'll do this again for sure, because I could talk to you for hours, man. Tell the people where they can reach you at, man, before you go.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you check me out. My main page I work with is Instagram, so that I post to Facebook, but at wesdawson.tcprodojo. So there's that. My Facebook's pretty much just a clone of everything I put on Instagram. But be sure to follow me. My stories, I keep very active with that. And I'm trying to come up with as much content. I just put a video of me chasing some deer around because there's like really nothing to do otherwise. So, but when I find interesting things, I put them out there. But hopefully big things in the works coming up soon. And hopefully I'll get that podcast rolling soon and can have you a guest on that
Awesome.
to discuss podcasting.
That'd be awesome. What's your handle on Instagram? You gave it away?
It's at wesdawson.tcprodojo.
Awesome, man. Again, thanks a lot for taking the time to fucking.
Well, appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah,
It was a blast.
We've been meaning to do this for a while, and we almost got it done live, but this whole coronavirus bullshit happened, and now we're
faster than us. That's it.
Stuck at home, but at least we got it done, man. Thanks a lot, man, and I'm sure I'm gonna speak to you soon enough.
Well, take care. Enjoy the 2-part WrestleMania this weekend, and
you too, man.
We'll talk soon.
All right, brother.
All right, take care.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.